Hi, everyone. It's Janice from the Divorcing Religion podcast. I'm excited to tell you that my book is now for sale. It's called Divorcing Religion, a memoir and survival handbook. And I'll make sure you have a link in the notes for that. And also, I want to encourage you to like, subscribe, and become a member of my YouTube channel. Take care. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Divorcing Religion podcast. I'm your host, Janice Selby. I'm a registered professional counselor and a religious trauma recovery coach. And I am very excited to have today's guest because she is going to be joining me in Seattle for Shameless Sexuality. We're doing this conference in May. Everyone should go right now to shamelesssexuality.org and buy your tickets. Okay. My guest today is a model, artist, and entertainer. And she will be speaking at the Shameless Sexuality Life After Purity Culture event in Seattle this May. Glenda Jordan lives in Las Vegas these days, but grew up on a farm south of Nashville, Tennessee, where she was indoctrinated into the Southern Baptist faith from birth. After deconstructing religion in college, Glenda became involved in activism for various causes, joining the third wave intersectional feminist movement. Glenda believes that liberation from patriarchy and the destructive influence of misogynistic faiths are inexorably linked. Focusing on atheistic feminism and sex positivity, Glenda is an active volunteer with RFR, that's Recovering from Religion, and other nonprofit organizations and her local queer kink communities. Ray, it's so nice to see you. Finally, we get to meet.
I know. It's so wonderful to be able to see and speak to you for the first time. Thank you so much for that introduction.
Thank you for joining me. I already know your mom just a little bit, interactions through RFR. I love Recovering from Religion. Dr. Ray has been such a huge supporter of my work right from the start. He's such a great person. And he will also be joining us as a speaker at Shameless Sexuality. And then when I was talking with Daryl about potential speakers for the event, he mentioned you right away. Because he heard you speak at one of their events and he was so impressed. So he said, be sure to get her over there. So that's why you're going to be joining us. And I can't wait.
Yeah, first of all, I love Dr. Ray so much. He is a dear family friend of ours. Yeah. And when I gave my lecture about polyamory, he was just so complimentary. I actually rewatched my lecture just yesterday. I've been asked to speak at another conference, so I'm just kind of like, is there any new information that I want to put into this? What more thoughts do I have that I want to share? And at the end, he's just so kind and really honored me with his feedback of how complimentary he was with what I had to say.
Yeah, excellent. He's so sex positive too. I really appreciate just having conversations with him. Very knowledgeable person, obviously been in psychology for a long time. And what I'm wondering with you, would you tell us a little bit about your growing up? So in the introduction, I mentioned Southern Baptist. So how did that roll out for you and your family? Because at some point, obviously, you detached from that belief system.
Yeah, so I'd love to talk about it. So I was raised on a farm just south of Nashville, Tennessee, in a town called Murfreesboro. If you haven't been there, you are not missing much. It's now a pretty big city. It's almost a sub-city of Nashville at this point. But when I was growing up, when I was real little, it was a pretty rural area. And again, we had a farm. So I was raised in Dominionist, Southern Baptist, evangelical faith. We had some flavors of fundy life, fundamentalism, but I was allowed to wear pants. And so that if you know true fundamentalism, that is not acceptable. So we were positively progressive. And it's important to note that there was a difference between my church's ideology and my own personal familial ideology. Because, for example, my parents, they were totally fine with us reading Harry Potter. And in the 90s, if you know anything about, Harry Potter is a totally
liberal.
different discussion now, and J.K. Rowling and her opinions. But at the time, it was very subversive because it was witchcraft and evil, and my church was all supportive of burning Harry Potter books, and my own parents were just like, that's dumb. So in my own family life, it was different from the ideology of my church. But yes, we were, it was Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. If the doors were open, we were in church. And I did Act Teens, Discipleship Now, Girls in Action. I did pretty different evangelical programs for youth. I competed in Bible drill competitions, and I did very well. It's memorization of the Bible and traveling to do competitions.
Hey, now you have all those triggers in your brain.
You know what? I've actually done a really good job of just deleting that information. I used to be able, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, First. I used to be able to rattle every book within I can't remember what my speed record was. And gosh darn it, I've just been really good at just deleting that information from my brain. I don't remember, I don't remember what Acts 22:18, what that, but I don't remember. I just
good job.
I know, good job, me. I just you know what? I'm going to put in more important information in there. So
yes.
I was very, very dedicated to my faith. And then I'm sure you've heard this tale 1,000 times. I start to get older. I'm, 11, 12, and getting deeper into the ideology, into the theology. And again, I was very dedicated to my faith and started having some issues with some of the things in the Bible. And there is a level of question asking that can happen in Sunday school that is not very much embraced. You have to ask the right questions. And if you're asking questions that point ideological holes or things like that, it's not, then you're seen as, in the terms of, I think it's a Scientology term, potential trouble source. So I, one of the stories that really, really got under my skin that was very difficult for me to deal with was Lot and his daughters.
Yes, exactly. That's the first one that comes to mind for me too.
Ooh, it's a tough one. And I was around, 12, 13 at the time. So I wouldn't hit puberty until several more years, but I'm coming more into my identity as a young woman, as a girl. Mm-hmm. And gender roles within the church were made extremely clear. And because I was female, your subservience is made crystal clear. You are not allowed to be in a position higher than a man in the church. You are not allowed to lead prayer in mixed gender company. You can obviously within women's prayer groups, of course, women are leading the prayers, but within mixed gender, men are always taking the lead. It was men, you have to be subservient to men, and men lead over you, and women are supposed to be silent in the church. And I had problems with that, especially when it came to, in comparison to my male peers that were my age, I was kind of more dedicated to my faith and to the ideology. So it felt like bullshit to me that they were given spiritual dominion over me when I was demolishing them in Bible drill and more dedicated to the faith. But that didn't matter. I made sure to pull it out. This was one of my many Bibles.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And so, because you're like, oh, you just weren't a real Christian. And you know what? Mm-hmm. So
I see the highlighting in that Bible.
Yes. So time went on, and I tried to make things work, but I had more and more difficulty. I want to make something clear. I didn't care. Something that did not bother me was I did not care about the physics impossibility of the Bible. For example, the fact that it's physically impossible to multiply the loaves of bread and the fish, like magic, because I was a big nerd into magic things. Magic is magic. If God is real, magic is real. That did not bother me at all. Whereas for some people who journey out of the faith, it's the impossibility of the physical aspects of the Bible that bothers you. It was none of that for me. I cared very much. It was about the moral an ethical, to describe it as evil doesn't even begin to cover it. The verse about how you're allowed to beat your slaves as long as they're not so injured that after the third day they can't like physically get up and move around, then you cross a line. If they're so physically impaired after you have beaten them, that's fine as long as it's done within like a 72-hour window or whatever. And I just, my 13-year-old brain, 14-year-old brain coming to terms with like, this was never, I don't see how there was ever a time where this was okay. I don't see how this is supposed to be a kind and moral God. And the Lot and his daughters of the holy man in the town giving his daughters up for gang rape. Mm-hmm. And then like reflecting on like, what if my own father did that to me? And then he was considered a holy person. I could never come to terms with this. And so I come with these questions that are hurting my heart so much to, my spiritual leaders in the church, my Sunday school teachers or whatever. And the answers or lack thereof that they gave me of just like, it's, we can't understand God's ways and making excuses for that kind of behavior. And it was so upsetting and uncomfortable, and really not knowing where to go with my feelings. And then also, as you become more aware of just the world in general, I had deep issues with the Christian nationalism aspect. As I'm in public school and as I get exposed to students of different backgrounds and ideas, like you learn about the Holocaust in like 8th grade, 7th grade. And I didn't believe, if I believed in heaven, I just didn't believe that all these Jewish people are going to hell because they didn't believe in God. Is it like, I just thought that like, that's not, I just don't believe that. I didn't I had issues with that. And then like learn, social studies, and my family was really into travel and international. It's like, you're telling me that like all of these people like are going to burn in hell forever because they weren't born in the right place at the right time and had the right, so I kind of discarded in my own way. I discarded this. It's not that I didn't believe in heaven and hell, but I had my own kind of internal apologist interpretation.
Yeah. And were you asking your folks too?
Yes. And, I got some, my mother, she deconstructed she was the last person in our family to deconstruct. My father has never deconstructed. And if you've listened to my mother's talk, she specifically mentions that part of her deconstruction is my children came to me with questions that I could not answer. So, awesome. So we did what we could to like, you're kind of just like limping through this ideology. You're holding on to it. You're in this choppy ocean of uncertainty, clutching on to pieces of driftwood of I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to hold on to the good verses that I like and hope that that's enough to be my lifeline to this community that I've been raised in, because I can't just throw away my entire reason for existing on this planet at all. I can't just let this go. It's not, as you know, it's not easy. And then when I was 15, I was a freshman in high school. And I made the decision. So several things happened. I had a very good friend who I had been friends with since kindergarten, and my twin sister and him were like really cute kindergarten boyfriend, girlfriend. Like he was a very dear friend. Also, of course, religious, but that's not everyone was. So he dropped dead of a cardiac arrest. Like,
oh my gosh.
It was awful. It was absolutely awful. And so that was my first, I had lost a grandparent before then, so I had experienced loss, but it is, as you know, it is a different thing, losing someone who is very elderly at the end of their life, and then the catastrophic loss, unexpected loss of a young person. So that was very intense, because he died like right in the first week of high school. So it was right at the beginning of school. It was just awful. That is why there are I mean, that is one of the reasons why defibrillators are really important to have
Yes.
at like sporting events. So anyway, so I was wrestling with all the existential crisis that brings. And then another thing happened to me where in my rededication to the faith, because after my friend died, I had a surge because Bruce was very religious. And so I had this resurgence of like really getting almost in a revival aspect, like really getting into my ideology, really getting into my faith, wanting to be as good of a Christian as I possibly could, wanting to be as Christ-like as I could. And in my studies of the Bible and wanting again to be as Christ-like as I could. In my understanding, Christ was all about mercy and grace and compassion, and every action that you can take in your life to prioritize those concepts, to reduce suffering and harm, to choose compassion and grace and understanding, you are absolutely obligated to make those choices. So your own personal comforts and needs come secondary to those concepts.
Wow.
So I took that to heart, and I chose to become a vegetarian. I became a vegetarian because in my understanding, I knew that in my place in the world as I was privileged enough to have access to a wide variety of food sources. I knew that I could be a strong, healthy individual with my access to food sources as I could, and remove myself from the cycle of harm that the industrial food complex causes. I'm not, because of course I'm eating food that's growing on that, because I was learning about factory farming. This was right as like the green revolution was happening. So we're learning about the impact of factory farming. This is not, like grass-fed, organic, like sustainable, whatever. I mean, I was, the statistics that United Nations was coming out with the impact of factory farming. Anyway, there's so much to say about that. But so I did not want to become a vegetarian. It was going to be very inconvenient for me, and I enjoyed eating meat very much. But I had this big spiritual battle within myself but my own feelings and thought. It doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't matter what I can't prioritize convenience and hedonistic pleasure over the greater good. And so, and it was a very easy, logical problem for me of, well, doesn't matter what I matter doesn't want. I got to do what is the most good that I can do? What's the most good? And I also cared very much about the planet. I care about conserving resources and recycling water and grain through animals when the trophic pyramid. So if you've got like 50 pounds of grain and 100 gallons of water to make 1 pound of meat, it's not as efficient. So,
right.
So again, it was very logical, like Vulcan problem for me.
Yes.
So made sense to me. So I came to this conclusion. I made the choice to become a vegetarian for myself. Just so you know, I was not okay, and then everybody else has to as well. Otherwise, you're not true. That was not my opinion. So again, after doing this intense soul searching and spiritual battle, and making a very big sacrifice of my own, like on my own accord, to be more dedicated to my faith, my church, the elders in my church, the leaders of my church, as it were, responded not with, ideally, right? You'd want like, wow, well, even if I disagree with that, I think it's great that you are so dedicated to your faith. I love that you're questioning. I love that you're like willing to make these sacrifices to become more like in your version of Christ, being compassionate. Like this is a sacrifice you want to make so that you can be a better Christian. No. Absolutely not. I was met with not just disagreement, but mockery, bullying, and scorn. I had I was, as most weirdo kids experience, if you're neurodivergent or different in any way, public school can be a little difficult for you. I was relentlessly bullied in school. I was physically and emotionally bullied all the time, like kick me signs taped on my back, shoved down in the hallways. Like I was really, really bullied in school. And so I was used to that, to school being hell in some ways for that, but church, not so much. And then now it really was, because I remember one time I was on a youth trip, and this was after I became a vegetarian, and I did not ask for any accommodations whatsoever. I did not ask for meals to be accommodated for me. I knew I was on my own. I didn't even assume. I packed my own food on my own so that I could feed myself and not have to. And it was on one of our youth trips, and I had made like a bread and cheese sandwich, and one of the youth leaders literally followed me around, was like, "What about the poor wheat that had to die for your sandwich?" And like mocking me. And I screamed at him to leave me alone. I was like, "Leave me alone, leave me alone." And then having this revelation of like, oh my God, all of you are so full of shit. This isn't real to any of you. You don't actually care. And then realizing the link then between like Christian nationalism and like Republican ideology because it had nothing to do with the fact that like they thought it was against God. I mean, they would have said that, but it was also because I was going against the cultural idea because right, the narrative is, you soy boy cuck, weak libtard loser who cares about animals. Like we see it, the narrative is like, that's weak. It's San Francisco gay shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like that. And that's where I grew up. Like that was the idea that even if you want anything other than like a Caesar salad, like that's some frou bullshit. Like it's not right. I mean, like it's not an exaggeration. And it is insane. And realizing like I'm like more mature and globally aware than all of you. Wow. And if I can't trust you to, I can't come to like, what can I like come to you for anything, for any sort, like, I don't trust you to know more than me then about this stuff, because you're demonstrating that not only am I more intelligent than you, I'm more compassionate than you. I'm more like, and then like another thing that I was, and I like, again, this is not made up. I promise it's not made up. But like in youth group in Sunday school, there was one, and I remember because it's Earth Day's in April. That's also when my birthday is, like around Earth Day. And I cared about being an environmentalist because I grew up on a farm, and I sure do like national. And I went to almost all 50 states before I was 16. I went to almost I went to like all the major national parks, like thankfully, because I traveled with my grandparents and my parents, and I really love them. I went to like Yosemite and Yellowstone and Monuments Valley. They're wonderful places. I would like to maintain these spaces. They're really beautiful. For you to care about the environment was sinful because it was in conjunction with libtard ideology of being an environmentalist. And it was said explicitly in Sunday school one morning that recycling was a satanic conspiracy because Earth Day was the worship of the Earth Day was Earth worship, therefore evil and wrong. And Earth Day was, pagan satanic conspiracy. And I've been sitting in there like recycling, like in my perspective, caring about resources. And it was not just a God would want me to do this. Jesus would ask me it was conservative to do that. To me, to conserve resources. It was also patriotic to me. Like, I care about this country. I care about our nationality. I care about our national parks. And we should protect these spaces. It was a conservative viewpoint for me. No, wrong. No.
Wow.
And so again, I'm sitting in there going like, you're insane. All of you are insane. This is an insane viewpoint to have. How is this? And so I knew at the time, like, y'all are living in a world that I do not understand. I cannot connect with. And so these degrees of separation and this snowball effect. And, around that time, like, I knew that I didn't have anything wrong with gay people by the time I was like 12 or 13. And I didn't come out as queer until way later in my life. I experienced what's called compulsory heterosexuality. It's very common, especially for women. And so I didn't recognize any of my, like, women are pretty. I didn't recognize that as attraction in my mind. I didn't even know that I was, oh, what you're experiencing is that you want to be with women. I didn't even recognize that. So I knew I disagreed with that. I know I disagreed with women being in positions of power because, again, remember, I'm just as smart, if not smarter than, like, my male peers. They would listen to music that sang about sex and drugs, and I don't do that. And yet they are a spiritual level above me. I'm more dedicated than them. They're having sex. I'm not. Like, so it was the snowball effect of getting out of the faith, and then that we had, like, some pretty dramatic, like, family upsets when I was in high school. My parents' marriage started to struggle because, again, we were all questioning leaving. And then once I graduated when I was 19 and went to college. And the second I was in college, like, I went to Knoxville, which is in the east part of the state. Murfreesboro is in the geographical center. I went to East Tennessee, and I went to art school. I mean, I was going to be a painter. So once I was there, I was like, bye, done. I'm not going to church. I'm not doing any of this. Like, I can't remember when I first called myself an atheist, but it was definitely by the time I went to college. There are moments that you remember that really stick in your mind, and then other moments that are kind of in this nebulous cloud of questioning and deconstructing. And I remember I had this, and this was earlier in the journey. I think it was like 13 or 14. I was laying in bed at night feeling existential despair, as you do, as you like really learn to, like, wow, I'm going to die someday, and what's my place in the world, and what am I going to do with my life? And I remember praying and not recognizing that, like, I don't hear anything. I don't hear or feel anything. I'm alone right now. My thoughts are echoing in my head. I am entirely by myself. There is no one out there. I'm alone. There is not a God in my presence. And I remember feeling profound guilt about that. Like, of course, it makes you panic. Like, and then later, in the daytime, later when you like gathered your feelings, like, oh, it was just having a moment of doubt, like maybe the devil was doing it. And trying to express this to, like, my pastor, and like, hi, I'm feeling kind of panicked because I don't hear anything when I pray. And everybody else is talking about how they feel the presence of God when they pray, and they feel God's spirit. And I don't feel that. So I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And then, yes, I went to college, got rid of the faith, and I, other than going again I went to church one more time after that, after another very profound death. My twin sister's boyfriend of 5 years died by suicide, and it was awful. It was very traumatic, very, very awful. It's been the biggest loss that we've ever endured as a family, because he was like a member of our family. So I went to church one more time, and that was I went with my father because he asked me to go. And again, Robert was like a son to him. So I went, And that was the last time other than funerals, that was the last church service I ever went to. And that was the last time. Mm-hmm.
So I'm very sorry for the losses that you have suffered. I can just feel that from you, how heavy that is. So does your dad still adhere to Christian beliefs?
Yes.
I mean, I know your mom doesn't because she's affiliated with RFR.
Yeah. So my father has never deconstructed. My father is a conservative Republican, but he is not a Trump supporter. And I think that is a significant, he's one of those old school Republicans,
Right.
like if you want to call it, like, what are the Lincoln Republicans or whatever, and I will take my win where I've got it. And so to me, I'm just so grateful. Like, it could be so much worse. My father, of course, he is such a wonderful man. I love him, right. Of course, as much as you can love like a parental figure. He raised me so well. He is so supportive and incredible. Again, he's a wonderful person. When it comes to, because all of us are out as atheists. We just don't talk about it.
Sure. And I think that is extremely important. We're talking about family stuff when we have parents or loved ones who remain entrenched in the ideology. And we value our relationship with them more than yes. So we just decide, you know what, if we don't need to talk about it, we're not going to talk about it. There's lots of other things to talk about. Yeah. And so then you go away to college and finally you're like, oh, okay, I've found my people. This is a place where I can fit in and I can be myself. Yes. And then what happens as far as sex and sexuality and actually figuring things out for yourself.
So I was the type of girl who was asked out as a joke in front of their friends in school. My nicknames were Goat Girl because I had big front teeth and Glendale after the Grendel monster. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. I think it's actually printed in my senior yearbook from people signing of like, sorry, you had to sit like Glendale in class. Yes, I was literally asked out as a joke more than once. So I was not, as we say, I was not experienced with the dating scene or having, thought that anybody could be interested in me because I was ugly and weird. And having the conversation about what it is like to be, the term is called swanning, when you ugly duckling to a swan, when you, there is a phenomenon where like there is specifically the glow ups where like you're seen as unattractive and weird. And then now I work professionally as a pretty person. That's
how you're a model.
I know, I do. I have worked professionally as an agency represented model who's been flown to like Miami and New York to do runway. And like, so yes, it is talking about pretty privilege and how society treats you especially as a autistic, like neurodivergent, when you're seen as unattractive and then when you're seen as attractive is an entirely separate conversation that I would like to do a lecture about at some point.
Fascinating.
So I go to college and I got my first boyfriend at the time, he was a British poetry, like English lit major, sang, like played the guitar and sang, and was interested in poetry. Like I was done for it. Like it was over for me. Like I'm not. And I, also being conversations about if we raise women to being desirable is the most important, significant thing, that when the time comes that somebody finally finds you desirable, despite any other reservations, like you're going to take that opportunity, which is why it's dangerous that we raise women with being appealing and desirable is the most important thing. Because otherwise maybe I would have slowed down a little more. Maybe I would have like rethought some things like, but no, I have companionship and it's so important. And it's the most important goal I can have. So I dated this guy and we dated for like 4 years. I remember, the first time I had sex, I was like 19 and I had some sexual experiences before then, like right at the last year of high school, like, but it wasn't penetrative P and V, therefore it doesn't count. And I remember like after, again, I had my first P and V experience going like, okay. I mean, it was like on an uncomfortable couch in a dorm room. And I'm like, this wasn't, sorry, this card told me, my abstinence card that I signed, my pledge card, I was meant to believe that this was the most life-changing thing. And it was just all right.
Yeah.
And things got
like that's
better.
all there is. Yeah.
Like, right. Like, and that's a learning that's like, yeah, the first few times you have it, it's not going to be like you, it's like sex is a skill. You will get better at it. You'll get better and you will find lovers that will get better. But the first time y'all are like putting your bits in places, it maybe isn't going to be the greatest. It's like when you're cooking for the first time or driving for the first time, you got to learn, and it takes time. It takes time to know yourself, it takes time to know others. And and then, there's so much to say about how I felt about relationships. Again, this is not made up. The first few months we were dating, I was deeply, deeply, deeply in love with him. Of course, I would have laid down in train tracks for him. And the first few months we were dating, I found out that he and my best friend had been talking for like a month and a half.
Oh no.
Yeah, it wasn't great. And I remember, and now like thinking back, now that I have been polyamorous for 10 years, thinking back on, I was like, oh, right. At the time, I even said, like, I didn't have a problem with the fact that they were having sex. I had a problem with the fact I was being lied to.
Right.
And that
was your consent in that situation? You didn't have an opportunity. Yeah.
Oh, it was very traumatic and very awful, but I didn't break up with him over that. I probably should have. I did not. We continued our relationship. And then I was in an very abusive relationship for like 3 years afterwards. And then finally it was emotionally, financially, and physically abusive. So I got out of that, and that was in 2015. Oh, bless. That was in 2015. And then I became polyamorous. And so then that's been 10 years now of I've been in this dynamic with, like, that was that summer, 2015, I met my fiance, I met my other partners. At least one of my other partners, like that was like the year I was really like, you know what? I'm not going to have unsatisfying sexual experiences anymore. I'm like 3 or 4 at the time. I'm hot. I'm just not going to, I'm not ruled by purity culture or like, I deserve better. God damn it.
Yeah, you do.
So I found these like amazing partners, and that was over 10 years ago now that I've had these like wonderful people in my life that like, wow, I should have been doing this from the beginning, but sometimes you got to go through those painful lessons. Like,
so were you reading or going to websites? Like, how were you even learning about? I mean, that sort of thing just certainly wasn't really. There was no internet when I was growing up, so those things weren't available to learn about in that way. What was it like for you? How did you educate yourself, or were you just falling into the company of other people on campus who knew about it?
I mean, at that time, I graduated college in like 2013. I was living in Vegas. I was an independent adult. I had my own apartment, paying my own bills, doing my own life. My abusive partner, we had like 1 year together in Vegas because we started dating in Tennessee. He moved with me to Vegas. It was like the final year of like hell. I managed, I got out of that, kicked him out. He owes me thousands and thousands of dollars. I would pay every penny and more to never have to him again. Yeah. So I was, after surviving that, and again, all abusive relationships are awful. In the trifecta of the financial, emotional, and physical abuse, it was so intense and so profound that I knew while I sought companionship, I certainly was seeking sexual satisfaction, because you want that, right? It's a natural human, like, I want to have sex with people, because I had only had, up until then, it was like 8 years of where I had been with 3 people. Yeah, it's like 3. And then so it took me like 8 years to have sex with like 3 different people. And then it took me 3 months to have sex with like 8 different people. I was like, I want these experiences. I want them.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I'll figure out at the time, like, is this worthwhile? Like, we'll figure it out. And maybe I'll move on to somebody else if I don't feel like you're satisfying. So I met my partner, David, and he was in the kink community. And while I had known about it, I'd never been to a kink event. I had never, done any of those things. And there was no opportunity that we were going to cohabitate, no matter how close we were, because he's deathly fatally allergic to cats, and I have cats. So that was already kind of like off the table. So we knew that our relationship was just going to be like a certain level. And David, I like to describe, I was in a dark cave emerging from this, and David was this beam of sunlight warming my face. Like he is so joyful and so silly and fun. And he's going to be a flower girl at my wedding. He is nice. One of my favorite people on the planet. He's incredible. So David also, he's got that polyamory superpower where he doesn't experience jealousy. And so he had no problems. Like, because I knew I was not going to be, my manifesto that I gave to anyone I connected with that summer was, this is who I am. This is what I want. If you're not okay with these things, like, that's fine. More power to you. We just can't be connected to a certain level. So if any person I was hooking up with had any sort of like, oh, I don't want you being with anybody else. Like, okay, bye. Like, I've done my time. Like, I just got out of this abusive relationship. What I'm not going to do is like get back into being controlled and being like property of somebody else, which is what it felt like, of like any man telling me like, oh, I don't want you being with anybody else. Like, you don't fucking own me. The church doesn't own me. You don't own me. I own myself. End of story. And then I met, I had a couple good dates, like a couple like fun experiences. And like, I hooked up with this really cute, it sounds like a joke, Canadian guy, like, oh, my Canadian boyfriend. But I hooked up with this really cute Canadian guy who, I should ask more, but I felt like there were some people in his group that were non-monogamous because they were all in town for EDC. And I got the impression that there was a little bit of like,
I don't know what EDC is.
Oh, it's Electric Daisy Carnival. It's a music festival it's the biggest electronic dance music festival. It's held in Vegas. It's like, yeah, it's a huge thing. I don't perform for EDC because they do not pay performers enough. They don't. So I don't actually perform for EDC, but a lot of my friends do. So kind of getting and realizing like, oh, like, you can do this. Why? This is like kind of great. Like, you can kind of like do this and whatever. And then I met my fiance, Nick. We met on Tinder, of all things. And that was one of the activities that David and I would do together, is we would swipe on my Tinder together. Like, I would sit next to him and we would like go through my Tinder, and it was this really fun experience. And so I met Nick, and I told Nick the same thing. Like, I gave him my manifesto of, like, I'm an atheist. So if you're religious, like, that maybe isn't going to work. Like, I'm, sex positive, whatever. So if you have any issue with me being with other people, like, this is not going to work. Like, I gave them from the get-go, give this manifesto. And Nick had, he had just been divorced. He had moved to Vegas, and while he had never had a relationship like that, I was like, oh yeah, sure, I'll try it. Like, that seems fine to me. Like, I've never done it before, but let's see. And so we started dating. Things developed really organically. I continued to be with David. And then there were, it's been 10 years. So there were moments in my polyamory journey of like, oh my God, deconstructing anxiety about you hurting other partners or feeling anxiety about being with other people is such a hard thing. Like, and it took years of time for me to get comfortable and used to the feeling of like being with other people. But then that was 10 years ago. And again, Nick and I are planning on, if everything goes well, like, not our relationship is fine. It's more this planning a wedding takes a lot of work. So hopefully that's happening next year.
Why was getting married something that was even on your radar?
No, no. And I will tell you that. So we got a domestic partnership years ago, and I was perfectly fine with that. And I wanted that to be that. The reason we did technically already get married because I need health insurance. And unfortunately,
Sure.
like, that's because otherwise what I wanted our marriage to be like, I wanted to have a big public celebration of our relationship and have a party and have a wedding. I didn't need to legally bind myself to somebody, but unfortunately, the way society is structured, that we did care very much about our legal rights to each other. I need to be able to visit if there's an emergency in a hospital, like,
right.
I wish maybe we'll see it within my lifetime. I also want that ability with my other partners. Like, I wish like in a polygamist kind of way, or polyandrist, actually is the term, kind of way, I would love to be able to, like, one of my partners is like pretty solo and doesn't have, like, is not connected to his family. And I would love to be able to, like, in an emergency situation, be with him in a hospital room. And so anyway, and Nick and I plan to do a lot of international traveling together. Some countries do not recognize domestic partnerships as, like,
that's right.
Well, that doesn't matter unless you are the spouse of the person.
Yeah.
So we did the legal thing for all the legal benefits, but he and I were both totally fine with just, like, having, like, a wedding is the best phrase to call it, but we just wanted to have, like, a big party where we celebrate our relationship, Yeah.
And do your partners know each other?
Oh, yes. We are not. I know that there are people out there that their polyamorous relationships function on a DADT, don't ask, don't tell. I think that that's toxic and weird. I think that is a relationship style that is still ruled by insecurity. No, we have, for the most part, we have what's called kitchen table polyamory, which is we all know each other pretty much. Generally speaking, we all get together once a week and watch movies together. Sometimes, obviously schedules, sometimes it doesn't happen. And my extended polycule is, it's not just, like, just people who are dating, like, it's our friend group, and, like, these people are dating these people are, like, casually together, these people are nesting partners. Like, it's pretty broad. And we all have a Discord together, so we all, like, talk all the time.
Nice.
Oh yeah, we're all very, very, very connected. Like, my Nick's girlfriend is gonna come when I go to American Atheists in just a couple of weeks. Like, Nick's girlfriend is gonna live here and, like, watch the dogs and the cats for us. And I do the same thing for when my partner goes to see his girlfriend in California, like, I'll go to help take care of the cats. Like, we're all connected to each other.
Right. And do you have any and obviously this is very personal, you can answer or not, do you have women partners as well as men in the polycule, or are you just connected with men in the polycule?
I'm not currently dating any women. There are women in the polycule that I have sex with, that usually at events or parties, and I'm interested in women. I don't have a secure attachment right now who is a woman or a femme. I am what we call polysaturated. And there was, like, a growth period where I thought I could have more people in my life, and then I neglected some partners because I was not making the time for them, because I there's only so many people that you can make time for. And I would love, I mean, like, it'd be great to have a girlfriend, but I don't have the time for one. But I do, again, in the kink community, like, we're at events, like, I do have sex with women on, like, a somewhat regular basis. So, like, I'm not dating any of them, but I do, some of the women I have sex with, like, I see pretty regularly. So we wouldn't call each other dating, but we have, like, fucked each other.
Yeah, you enjoy each other. And so, how have these conversations played out with your family of origin? I mean, obviously, you only tell what you feel like you want to tell, but I know your mom and you are involved in some of the same RFR stuff and activism stuff together. So obviously, she hears about these things. You have quite a kind of really open relationship to talk with her about anything.
I'm very, lucky doesn't even begin to describe it. Privilege doesn't even begin to describe it. I have a really unbelievable, magical family. I have two brothers, a twin sister. My twin is married and her husband is wonderful, and they just had their first baby, and Bennett is precious and adorable. I love her, and I get to see her soon. She's like 5 months old, almost 6 months old.
Nice.
And my mother and her partner, there is nothing about my life that I hide or keep. I'm open and explicit with like anything. Like I like sharing my experiences. And so I will openly, especially with like my twin sister and my mother, like I talk about what happens at kink events, and like, I had this great experience and this was awesome. And we talk about sex all the time, and in a very like open and casual way. And, you know, my nephew's a young man, and he asks me questions about like sexuality that I can like, to try to like be a mentorship and talk about. Yeah. So just like learning about consent and trying to talk about like figuring out like, you know, sexual safety and things like how to get good STI screenings. And so I'm very, now, my father, I know that, because like he's not going to watch this video, so it's so weird like talking publicly about something that like my father is not going to watch this. But I have never actually come out to my father as being in a polyamorous relationship, but he has to know, because he's on my Facebook and my Facebook is public, and I make public posts about my partners in polyamory all the time. So I think he just kind of looks the other way. However, I am definitely working on and I'm going to sit down with my polycule and ask their advice, because I am planning on having the official conversation with my father, because as you know, I'm getting married next year, and our wedding is not, when I say it's polyamorous wedding, we're not having during the ceremony, like commitment parts with other partners, but they are part of the ceremony. So like, my partner David's gonna be the flower girl. Like I'm gonna, and especially for like I'm gonna be talking. We are both going to recognize our partners during the ceremony, and I'm like on the dance floor. I'm gonna dance and kiss with everybody that I'm kissing everybody, because everyone in our polycule, we're very touch friendly. So that my father doesn't have a baptism by fire at the wedding, I am gonna sit down and talk to him about like, Daddy, like this is part of my life, and I just need you to be prepared that you're going to be seeing stuff at the wedding, and you got to be like, just prepared. Like
good for you. That's very respectful. Yeah, you should have that conversation with him.
I don't want to just like, I would feel really bad. I don't want to just like shove him off a cliff into being uncomfortable, and he's going to be very uncomfortable. But if I can try to like soften the blow by degrees, and I mean, like, if it helps, like, does it help that I've been with these people for over a decade? Like, does that help that there's relationship security, that it not just a phase, that the person I'm marrying is a highly decorated combat veteran? Like, come on, Dad, I like, come on, like me. So I trying to, other than that, I mean, I really, I know this might be a really cliche phrase to hear, but I very much care about living authentically. I do. I see it as an act of, I think the more, because I am an extroverted, aggressive, confident person. And it's easy for me to do those things because I'm adhering to like there's so much to say about being out as a polyamorous person. I don't know if you know this, but there are entire groups, Discord servers, Facebook groups, TikTok accounts, Twitter accounts that are dedicated to hating on polyamorous people. And specifically the trope stereotype that polyamorous people are ugly. That's a legitimate stereotype. And so for me to be out as a polyamorous person who is conventionally attractive, there's part of me that's like, I don't believe in confronting your bullshit with like, see, I'm polyamorous and I'm not ugly. Like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Actually, it doesn't matter what I physically look like. So when I say it just me, I just want to clarify that because it's of course easier for me to be out as a polyamorous person because I'm white, I'm attractive, I'm educated, all of these things. But
that's a privilege there.
They're all privileges. I get judged by a different metric. Like I just do, but I still get judged. Like I definitely still very, 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 very much judged. Especially as a woman, like being open with your sexuality. Like, I mean, growing up in slut shaming culture, and I believe in being authentic and being open, because I think every single person that does that, you make life just a little bit easier for other people to be out and open. It's why I'm
Nice.
open as an
Yes.
atheist. It's why I'm open about
Yes.
enjoying sex. It's why I was really open about when I got sterilized last year, being a child-free person. Like I shout it from the rooftops in the hopes that it will reduce the stigma for at least one person.
Excellent. Yes, being able to normalize things that
Mhm.
that somebody chooses to do, because they're choices that you're making for yourself. I love it, and I'm so glad that you are, living so openly and so
Mhm.
authentically. And I really like the idea of different types of relationships. That's one reason I wanted to
Mhm.
get you on the show, because it's not something I think that's typical for a lot of people, but there are so many different interesting ways to have relationship. And
Yes.
my husband and I, this is my second marriage, his third, and he is 22 and a half years older than me. So we're non-traditional in that way. I never
Mhm.
imagined myself being married to someone who's in their 70s. I am loving it. I'm having the best sex of my life. He is just such a
Yes.
beautiful, wonderful person. And
Yes.
I'm happy. And he says, he said, I never even knew I could be so happy. Like, it's just we're a beautiful pairing together. So just different relationships. You don't have to necessarily think, well, that's the relationship that you would have, but be open to learning and listening to
Yes.
what other people are doing. Like, you might be surprised.
Yes. And that's, again, my polyamorous talk of like people, I do not expect one person to fulfill every single one of my needs. It's not reasonable. And I just would never, like, Nick fulfills me in such specific ways and nurtures me in such specific ways. And he's like such an incredible partner, but I get different things out of my relationships with my other partner, is was raised in a cult. So
Wow.
uh and it was a Christian cult. So we have a level, and Nick did not grow up that religious. So my other partner and I
Hmm.
have a level of bonding that, like,
Yeah.
it's something that, like, I didn't realize I needed so much from like a sexually and romantically intimate partner, but being
Yeah.
able to like both of us surviving purity culture and how much that affects like our sexuality with each other, and being able to like I almost want I want to do data gathering on it. Like the specific type of sex that two people who have deconstructed purity culture can have with each other. Like, it's really great. And having that, being able to like, because like, of course, Nick knows everything about my religious upbringing, but there's just some things that like that's going to be foreign to him or not
Right.
understand about like the church, that like, of course, with my other partner, he's going to like totally understand and know there's words and phrasings that we're going to have familiarity with. And
Yes.
so and my, the different things that your other partners can read. Like, Nick is not crazy about crowds sometimes, and he's not exactly like somebody who loves clubs. He used to manage one, so I mean, like, with
Mhm.
security for one, so it's not his scene. But and he doesn't exactly dance. Like, he's not a dancer, but me and David, these are things of like, oh my God, let's do this together. We can totally do this
Nice.
together. And
Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, it's just like how you have different friends for different things. But in
Right.
my world, it's just that there's different intimate partners for different the spectrum of relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
And there has to be such a level of trust and a
Mhm.
feeling of safety.
Mhm.
And I think that's definitely something that people need to know about. And I definitely hear from clients who are recovering from religious trauma. They spent years in fundamentalism. They married a fundamentalist partner, and now either one or sometimes both of them is deconverting entirely,
Mhm.
and they're looking at their marriage. Why did we get married? Would we have married if it weren't for religion? And then sometimes it even goes farther. And you touched on it earlier. Like, am I really heterosexual, or is this just kind of the mold that I was forced into because that's what was acceptable? So there's a lot of questions. And I do caution people to take their time and read and explore and consult with a therapist who is very sex positive, and where they can ask questions and they can hammer things out and figure out what do they want their relationship to look like moving forward. So it doesn't just seem like it's one partner who has to say yes because they're afraid they're going to lose the other partner. That's not how we want to go about things.
Right.
So it really does need to be discussed very, very openly and with great care. So there's a feeling of safety and security and all those things.
Right. And the, security in a relationship, part of the thing about being polyamorous is that you have to be in some ways comfortable with insecurity. I recognize that, like, I think I'm going to be with any of my partners when I'm 80 or 100, or if I live to be that long? I don't know. I kind of trying to stay present in the moment. And you build, obviously Nick and I getting married, like, we're building this life together, and we hope that we'll stay with each other as long as we're serving each other, as long as we're both getting, it's a net positive and getting this wonderful thing out of a relationship. And I can't stand the idea of this concept of, like, successful relationship versus not successful relationship, only in that, like, people phrase it, if any polyamorous relationship ever ends, it's seen as like, well, because polyamorous doesn't work. Polyam doesn't work. It's like, okay, what is your metric of success for a relationship? Is it again, a successful relationship is one where you're together until you die? Because I know plenty of old folks who had that, and they were miserable to the day that they died, or it was not a good relationship. And it was so, at what point, like, I actually had somebody in my feed recently, and they weren't polyamorous, but it was really lovely to see this. They'd been with this person for a really long time, years and years. And they made a post about, like, we're ending our relationship, and we love each other, and we're going our own ways, and we wish each other the best. And I love that, like, that was a successful relationship. That was, I think, thinking about just in terms like that, like,
divorce isn't a failure. It's a transition.
It's not a failure. In fact, it's a celebration. Like, it means that you are choosing what is better for you. Yes.
That's important.
And we have such a stigma, there's still such stigma about it, and there's stigma about relationships ending. And it's like, no, I mean, it gets more complicated if you've got kids in the mix, like, right. Like, I get all of those things. And I just, with security in a relationship, I feel extremely secure in mine, but I also, I'm open. I understand, and I'm open to the reality that, like, maybe they're probably not going to last until we're dead. I hope that we get to stay with each other for as long as we can, but, like, I'm not going to, everyone changes and your life changes. And I think being comfortable with the fact that life is, short and dynamic and lots of, just different, because eventually, like, I'm probably not going to live in Vegas. Like, I'm not going to live here I'm not going to be an old person here. I'm going to go up to PNW. At some point, that's going to happen. That means my relationships are going to change. So,
yeah. One thing that my partner does every night that is just, I've never had another partner who did it. And, we're spooning and cuddled up together. And
love it.
He says to me, would you like to be my partner tomorrow?
Oh, my God.
He says it every night. It's just he's just the best. I can't wait for you to meet him. He's just a delightful
excited.
Person.
No, I love that. Nick will, he'll shout. Sometimes I'll be in, like, my bath, or I'll be in the studio, and he'll just shout, like, babe. I was like, yeah. He's like, I love you. And it's just, like, really, like, it's really, really cute. It's gross even. It's
delightful.
No, it is. And honestly, like, I being loved by multiple people of like, holy shit. Like my other partner texted me last night. It's like, babe, I just love you so much. Like, how did I get
Imagine
here?
being so lovable.
How
You
did I can't believe I'm so supported. I feel I make this comparison of, you know how like before you leave the faith or whatever, like Christians tell you that atheists are just miserable and their lives are hollow and meaningless and they're so full of hate and they just like deep down can't, like they hate everything. And then you become an atheist and you live life with freedom and light and joy. And like, wow, all of you lied to me. I can't believe that any of you ever told me that this was not how life was supposed to be, or that it could be, or that life like this would be a dark, twisted, miserable place. And I have nothing but like freedom and liberation, and I'm not controlled, and I own my own body, and I do what I want, and I do my best to like make a good impact on the world. I feel the same way about my polyamorous life. I don't know who told me that I couldn't have relationships this way, or that these relationships were not going to work, or that the concept doesn't work. And I know that some people have bad experiences with it, just like some people have bad experiences with monogamy, don't we? And like, yes. and I know that like it doesn't work for everybody. And I get all of those things. But for me and my own journey, and having done this for over a decade now, that like I've never, every time I think I can't fit more love in my body, I manage to squeeze a little more in there. And I just feel so supported and worshipped and respected. And yeah, it's kind of amazing. And it's also kind of amazing having so many people to do so many different things with, like different activities and the variety of life. And I also like, if anything happens to me, oh my God, like I am supported. So it was funny because this happened like a couple of weeks ago, and David and I were laughing about it. We were at a bar for karaoke. It's a very divey bar. We were there for like karaoke, and some person struggling with probably, I'm sure, substance abuse issues and some other things, maybe they're transient, stole my purse.
Oh no!
And I had my phone on me, so I'm like, and my debit card was at the bar, so I'm like, I've got my debit card on my phone. Those are kind of like the two most important things. It sucks to lose my ID, but I've got my passport. It's like a disaster, and my purse is this trashed old thing that I got from like a thrift store 10 years ago. Like it's not a big deal. I had like $80 of cash. That sucked, but whatever. Like, it's really like, it's not the end of the world. I'm not going to move to tears. So, but unfortunately for the guy who stole my purse, he was still lurking outside the bar, and my partners found and confronted him. So it was like apparently I have a type, and it's like big, strong, tall, masculine characters that I was just standing there looking at, who all have security experience, by the way, like either like have managed security and they all like carry. And I was looking at them, and David and I were like standing next to each other. He's like, Glenda, if anyone ever like actually hurts you, like they're dead. They are going to be dead. Like,
you are well protected. So you got your purse back.
I did. I got my purse back, and the thief was allowed to exit the premises. You know, I hope he's somewhere making better decisions today. I'm sorry about your life, dude. Like, seriously, sucks to be you. But and he of course had stolen, like, so he had like gotten some things from other people. But like, it was, and that's a bummer. Like, it's sad. That's a bummer decision, dude. You know. But I like, it was just looking at like, wow, like, yeah, like I'm so at the drop of a hat, if I needed anything, I'd just be like, help, and like, I'd have, and not just my partners, but everyone in the polycule. Like, if I truly needed something and I could reach out, and the friend of my partner, my metamor of my this, like, I have people in my life that in my community. And that is actually, I'm speaking at a conference. I'm speaking at NanoCon later this summer, and it's going to be my polyamorous talk, but it's going to have a slightly different twist on it, because I'm going to talk about specifically in the rising tide of American fascism. what can we do to keep ourselves safe, and what can we do to protect each other? And there are big lessons to learn from polycules that monogamous people need to learn in terms of building community and building safety nets and safety structures. So that's like lessons from a queer polyamorous person on community safety and community building. Like specifically, like if you've got people in your friend group who are at risk for deportation, which is not an insignificant amount of people now, even people who had citizenship before, valid citizenship before, but now it's being taken away. What is your plan to keep them safe? Like, what do you have your plan in place?
Yeah, we never thought that we would see these times visited upon us in North America, and certainly with the rise of white Christian supremacy in the United States, we also see the rise of repression of sexuality. I mean, you know that things are just going to get harder. So that's why it's really important that we do the Shameless Sexuality conference in May. I'm so glad you're going to be joining us as a speaker. I have loved getting to know you. I can't wait to meet your mom in person and Dr. Ray in person finally after all these years. Can people find you? Are you interested in people finding you? Do you have a website or an Instagram or anything like that?
Yes, I do. So I do actually have a website. It's for my artwork. Again, I work as an artist. Excuse me. My website is glendajordan.net. And so my website's on there, and it has my links to my other things. My Instagram is Calliope Hoop. Calliope was and is my stage name. It's CALLIOPEHOOP. Calliope Hoop. And that's my stage name. And then I'm on Facebook as Glenda Jordan. People are welcome to follow me on Facebook. Like I make posts about stuff every now and then. I'm not a prolific poster, but when I do, I post that. I've had some posts go viral about thoughts of mine. So you don't have to friend request me. You can just hit that little follow button, because otherwise your friend request is going to sit in the void box. So just follow me instead. And then I don't have TikTok. Again, I have my Instagram, but I don't post very much, but I'm going to try to. I know, a model who doesn't post on Instagram. What am I doing with my life? I know. No, honestly, it had a lot to do with the pandemic. It was like, well, my career just got vaporized off the face of the planet, and I'm depressed and anxious, and you're expected to but dance, monkey dance, make us content. Like, I don't want to. And so of me being inside, and that just kind of created a snowball effect. So I'm trying to get back into posting on Instagram. So yes, and that
people can follow you. They can follow you on Facebook, Instagram, and they can go to glendajordan.net to see your work. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
It was great. I'll let you know when the episode is going to.
Yes, and we could talk for 5 more hours. There is so much I could just chatter on about, and I'm excited for you to hopefully one of my partners will be able to be up there with me. So
that would be awesome. Okay, well, thank you, and I want to thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm sure you've enjoyed this conversation as much as I have, and we'll see you all again soon. Thanks everyone. Take care.